I now turn my attention to Geneva and to Adriana with two sub-questions focused on the control of the hospital and the use of ambulances by an armed group during a non-international armed conflicts. So Geneva, here is your first sub-question. Is an armed group allowed under the international humanitarian law of non-international armed conflicts to take control of a hospital?
In addressing this question, it is important to notice that we don't know the actual meaning of the expression to take or to have control of a hospital. From the Amnesty International report, we only know for sure that some members of the armed group were present in the second floor of the hospital. We don't know if they were there exclusively to receive or to provide medical attention or not. Therefore, I suggest we consider two scenarios. The first would be that control means to administrate the hospital in the sense of providing the necessary means for the hospital to function, doctors, nurses, and medical supplies. The second will be military control, that is to secure the entrances of the hospital. None of these two alternatives are expressly allowed or forbidden under the IHL of NIAX. So what is relevant in this case, whatever the alternative might be, is that the armed group acts within the following limits. First, the armed group should not deny or delay the access to healthcare to those in need. Second, the armed group should not interfere with the performance of medical activities and should not compel the medical personnel to carry out work contrary to medical ethics. Third, the armed group should not use the hospital or to force the wounded and sick or the medical personnel to commit acts harmful to the enemy, because if they do so, they will lose the protection they are entitled to under Article 9 of AP2. Finally, if the members of the armed group present in the hospital were not wounded or sick or members of the medical personnel, they shall take all the precautionary measures against the effects of the attacks that in the light of the circumstances deem appropriate to preserve the life of those not or no longer participating in the hostilities. In conclusion, under the IHL of NIAX, the armed group may take control of a hospital in the sense of administrate or to military control it as long as they act within the limits described. Thank you.
Thank you, Adriana. And then your second sub-question, is an armed group allowed to use a hospital's ambulance and for what purpose?
Under IHL, an armed group may only use an ambulance to perform its humanitarian function. This is to provide care for those wounded or sick. It is prohibited to use an ambulance to commit acts hostile to the enemy. IHL imposes upon the parties to the conflict the obligation to respect and protect the medical transport in the same way that it protects medical units. So the parties to the conflict must also act here within the limits described a moment ago. With regard to the acts that might be considered harmful to the enemy, it is important to take into account that under IHL, as well as under the domestic legislation of most countries, the transport of healthy troops is considered a hostile act and lead to the loss of the protection against the attacks. In sum, the armed group is only allowed to use a hospital's ambulance to perform its humanitarian function and is obliged to respect the limits explained in question 3A. Thanks.
Thank you, Adriana, for your very complete answer. And I think the examples you gave us were really useful for us to picture more precisely which acts in hospitals and with ambulances would be legal under international humanitarian law. In the reply we have heard no mention was made on the potential violation of the use of the emblem that controlling a hospital or using ambulances could constitute. And I would like to hear one of our experts, Alexander, on this precise issue. Alexander?
Yes, thank you very much, Djemila, and thanks very much to Adriana for your really very complete answer. I think that the question posed is really a supplementary one. I think here there is, of course, additional issues involved if an emblem indeed was displayed. On the basis of these facts, it cannot be conclusively said if that was the case. So in essence, this question takes us perhaps a bit back from the case as such, but assuming that an emblem is displayed, here indeed, and you very well illustrated the different scenarios in which the non-state armed groups might use this the hospital for and take it over. So assuming that they use it, say, for military activities, there, you know, you rightly pointed out acts harmful to the enemy might be committed where things like, you know, storing, for instance, heavy weapons or ammunition are in the hospital, or where a hospital, for instance, is used as a command and control center by that armed group, or even worse, where from inside the hospitals weapons in combat by the non-state armed group members are fired. So assuming that there is an emblem displayed with any of these military activities, and here we're talking about emblem that is a visible manifestation of the protection, of the specific protection of medical facilities, where this is the case, that any type of military activity along the lines outlined would, first of all, amount to an improper use of the emblem. So that ties in with Additional Protocol 2, Article 12. And then additionally, even worse, where these military activities are conducted with the intent to invite the confidence of the adversary, to make them believe that one is specifically protected, in order to launch specific military operations for killing or injuring adversaries. This would even constitute prohibited perfidy in line with customary IHL Rule 65, and where this results in killing or wounding, even worse than that, this would also amount to a war crime. Again, your answer was very complete, and there is no conclusive evidence on the basis of these facts that an emblem has been displayed or for which precise military activities the hospital was taken over by the non-state armed group. Thank you.